Welcome into our Golf Channel headquarters. He's Trip Eisenhower. I'm Chantel McCabe, and we're here to talk about this guy, Tony Romo, former NFL quarterback, but now he serves a very important purpose as an analyst. He does a great job at that, but one of his biggest passions is the game of golf, and he's been grinding it out. He really does have a pretty respectable resume as an amateur, but there's been a lot of conversation of if, not just he, but others, especially former athletes who have achieved the best in their game, should be, meandering their way into the game of golf and perhaps taking spots away from guys that are trying to grind and make a living out of golf. So he's going to be in the field at the Veritex Bank Championship on the Korn Ferry Tour. Yeah. We've seen him already on the PGA Tour. He's yet to make a cut. But let me ask you this, because we can argue this ad nauseum, but does it matter who and which event for you personally when it comes to having a guy like this in the field?
No, I don't. See, the problem with golf is there's not one golfer who could put on a uniform and a helmet and go throw play a football game. That just wouldn't happen. But with golf, it does. It makes our sport unique. I mean, it is one of the few things, and no golfer can go out there and play in a tennis, a professional tennis tournament. I mean, it doesn't happen. But golf is the one thing that everybody can play, and you can play at a high level, and he certainly has a good game. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen him play. His game is good. But Steph Curry, he played in a Korn Ferry event and played very respectable recently. You've had Jerry Rice play in that same event. Now, he didn't play all that great. But here's the thing. The sponsor has the prerogative to put whoever they want in the tournament, okay? And they're paying the money, they're the sponsor, and the tour gives them that ability. So if they want to do that, more power to them. If they want to give it to Annika Sorenstam like they did years ago, as controversial as that was. She played from the same tees. Mm-hmm. So I here's the deal. I don't have a problem necessarily with it as much as I do people complaining that it takes a spot away from somebody that's grinding to get there. Because I don't necessarily think that's right, because that's saying that the sponsor would automatically give that spot to that type person. Right. That's not always the case.
Right. They could give it to a banker. They could give it to a kid if they wanted.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to a separate issue. So should there not be sponsor exemptions so then we stay away from this problem as a whole, or do you see a value and purpose?
Well, okay, I was on the Player Advisory Council, which is the basically the Congress of the PGA Tour. It's kind of where they.
I've never heard you describe it. I'm going to start calling you Congressman.
No, well, but you're elected by your peers, and it's a pool of players from different categories, and then from that, basically, the senators are chosen off that to be on the board and to sit on the board. There are 9 members of the board, 4 of them are player directors, and then the president would be Jay Monahan. Okay, so there I'm making it an analogous to. But anyway, this was talked about on the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour, and I was on a complete other side of no. You have to have with a carrot for writing the check. It's not like they're dominating the field. They get 4. I mean, they get 4 unrestricted on the PGA Tour. I think they get 2 unrestricted on the Korn Ferry Tour.
Right.
That may have changed. That's what it used to be. I know there's still 4 unrestricted on the PGA Tour, and that means they can get. But there are sponsors invites that are restricted, meaning they have to go to PGA Tour members.
Right. Maybe let's do that. Let's break down the field, because first, let's say for this week, WGC in Puerto Rico, how are those fields constructed, just to give people an idea?
Okay, well, it's complicated. Let's take the WGC out of it. Okay. Let's just take a regular PGA Tour
Wells
event.
Fargo.
Wells Fargo. You have your tournament winners, you have your major winners. There's all sorts of categories. Right. And then it goes down to the exempt players from the previous year. Then it comes down to the Korn Ferry Tour players. And then there are 4 open qualifying spots on Monday. There are 4 restricted PGA Tour sponsors invites, meaning that they have to go to a member of the PGA Tour.
Right.
Somebody who is not eligible for the event but is a member. You don't realize how many members there are. If you've won a PGA Tour event ever in your life and you pay your $100 a year, you are a member of the PGA Tour. So you are a member, so that you could give them that spot. And then they're 4 unrestricted. So that's pretty much the matrix of how a field is made up.
And by the way, how few of the fields actually choose to do this. That's the other thing.
So few.
Because it usually goes to a really high respected amateur.
Yep.
Or somebody who's been kicking around for a while. Jonathan Bird, for example, who hasn't picked up a win in several years, but hey, he's respected in the game, knows the tournament director. That's important.
And real quick, last year you had Matthew Wolff got a sponsor's invite and won. Colin Morikawa, a sponsor's invite and won. So, I mean, they don't, you're right, they don't all go to celebrities, but to me,
I would say less than 1% go to celebrities.
Oh my gosh, yes. But
when it happens,
but it's noise for the tournament.
Yeah.
It gives them something that it gets media attention. We're sitting here talking about it.
Yeah.
It helps the event, and if you're a sponsor, that's what you want. I think this is much ado about nothing. And you know what? I hope Tony Romo shows up and makes the cut. But I think the biggest thing that these celebrities find out is how good you have to be to play on the PGA Tour or the Korn Ferry Tour for that matter. These guys are good, and there's a huge chasm between being a very, very, very good amateur and being a pro.
See, I understand all of the benefits you get. I don't know how many more ticket sales or all of that stuff that actually in the bottom line matters, because instead of talking about some of the players in the field, we're so consumed with Tony Romo, which I think is an adverse effect. I could be with it or without it. I'm not super strong either way. But tell me what drawbacks you potentially see with stuff like this.
No, I don't see any from the sponsor standpoint.
Okay.
Now, I do see it from some of the players that are trying.
Course. You are a congressman after all.
But they're on the edge anyway.
Right.
My point was these guys trying to increase the fringes of guys that are alternates to get in and increase their. My point is you're an alternate for a reason, buddy. Play better. I mean, it's real simple. If you're exempt, they can't take you. They can't take you out of the golf tournament. You can play when you want.
Right.
So that's the deal. That's the way I always looked at it. If I was trying to get a spot in a field over Tony Romo, I had a problem with how bad I was playing because I shouldn't have been in that position.
Truly, but I think you could look at it like Waste Management Phoenix Open when that was Matt Wolff's professional amateur start. If he didn't have that experience, for example, how would that have dictated things? So it's not necessarily like one way or the other. But you know what? We're going to debate this till the end of time. The bottom line is less than 1% of these spots go to people. So I think that is what is important.
Good luck, Tony.
To keep things into perspective. By the way, just one little fun fact. He was only 8 over when he played the AT&T Byron Nelson last year. That was far better than his 2 previous PGA Tour starts. Now he's going to go, we'll say, down a level, so to speak.
Korn Ferry.
So he's going to Korn Ferry Tour, and maybe he'll make a little bit noise. And we've seen the improvements with his game, so perhaps you might want to keep an eye out for Tony Romo making the cut and making it to the weekend. We'll see.